they can arrange to get rid of him legally. They don't even have to assassinate him. And so we get Joe Biden, who's a zero, and he'll do everything he's told to do, and he belongs to all those organizations. So it really doesn't make any difference. What getting rid of him would do is disrupt things, at least for some period of time. And that's why I think it's significant, because the disruption may come at the wrong time. And the wrong time may be when perhaps 6 months or a year from now, when unemployment is not where it is today, perhaps it might be 25 or 30%, and people, because he is a black man, black people might take exception to it and go berserk. I mean, they've done that before. We have a long history in America of race riots, and so that could happen, and so I think they took quite a risk with this, and this was all Brzezinski's idea and George Soros, who are two people who are high up in the Illuminati, and I think it's a gross, terrible miscalculation, and I think it's going to blow up in their face. But they think by having another large war, they'll be able to wiggle themselves out. And I don't think they can do it this time, because there's too many people who know what's going on now. Between the Internet and these kinds of programs, we're making great strides. I get letters every day. Well, I found out really what was going on 6 months ago, or a year ago, or 2 years ago, or 3 years ago. There's a lot of new people who have discovered really what's going on in our country and throughout the world by this nefarious group of people who control everything. And the awakening gets even stronger as unemployment grows higher, even to the uneducated. Because, the guy with the PhD will say, well, I wondered why things were the way they were, and now I understand it. And the guy who just got laid off from General Motors might say, well, I think there was something rotten going on, and now I see who was doing it. So you're getting a great awakening in America, and throughout the world for that matter, on this subject. So it all leads from Obama, and I think they made a terrible mistake.
Well, here's an example. I've got a question for you from one of the listeners. He says, and this is parallels what you're saying. He says, I have concluded that the Illuminists are willing to sacrifice the Federal Reserve so that they can replace it with a world central bank. Any opposition in Congress to the bills to audit the Fed will be just for show. And once the Fed is actually audited, the public will demand that the Fed be abolished. This will be playing right into the Illuminists' hands, since this is really what they want anyway. They just want the public to think that the public has a voice. Once the Fed is abolished, they can easily bring in their World Bank, which of course will be staffed by stooges of the Illuminati. Do you have any comments on my thesis? Again, this is from one of our listeners.
Well, it could be. But, if the Fed is done away with because of corruption and other things, then people are going to stand back and say, no, we don't want any other private group. We don't want any other international group. We're going to have problems as it is. We're not going to let the IMF or the BIS or the World Bank or anybody else tell us what to do. And the public is going to have a good handle on the problems that we face, who caused them and why at that point. I mean, even today, we're looking at H.R. 1207 with 258 co-sponsors in the House of Representatives. That only happened because the Ron Paul organization and people like myself get on the airways and get tremendous exposure. I mean, I reach millions and millions of Americans who I would never normally reach And I thought they were insane for letting me on their programs, but they did. And look where it's at. There's a lot of people who understand that didn't understand 3 and 6 months ago or a year ago.
Bob, are you still there? Well, it appears that I'm still here, and it sounds like Bob was cut off for whatever reason. I'm not absolutely certain. As when these kinds of problems turn up, I don't know what the solution to the problem is, and perhaps, hopefully, Bob will be rejoining us before the program's over, but maybe he said he'd had some technical difficulties back at his home, and perhaps they've expanded. Hard to say what's happened here exactly. My point when I brought up this email, the person who presented his theory.
I'm back.
All right, Bob. I was just explaining the reason I brought up this email from the one listener, and he had his theory about the Illuminists and so on, the Illuminati and so on. People are looking for an explanation, and it's consistent with we may not know what the real causes are, but everybody understands something bad is going on. I mean, it's like having a dead animal in the wall of the house. Everybody can smell it. You may not know what the animal is and exactly which wall it's in, but you know there's something wrong here, and everyone's aware of that and looking for answers. If anyone can provide those answers in a coherent way, I think the public is going to follow them, or at least embrace those answers and do what has to be done to make the correction.
And you know, Al, that's why I believe that they are going to be unsuccessful in trying to pull that off. And I don't know for sure whether they want this canceling out the Fed to happen or not. I don't know that that's the case, but it could very well be. You know, we don't know what goes on inside their inner sanctum or their planning. But anyway, it's possible. But
there was an article.
I don't think people are going to accept that. The American citizen is not going to accept a international unit backed by 10 currencies, including the dollar. They're just not going to do it.
I think they wouldn't accept that currency because if this paper currency fails, and it seems inevitable that it will, I think everyone is going to quickly realize that you want a currency backed by gold or silver, or you want gold or silver or currency backed by gold or silver. I don't think they're going to accept the ideas when the green dollars become worthless that we come in with blue dollars and they say, well, we'll take paper blue dollars. I just don't see it happening. I think the people will learn their lesson. The dollar collapses. If that happens, they're going back to gold one way or another. I don't see a way to get around it.
No, I agree, and we're living in a intellectually tumultuous time that probably could very well become a time that could cause great violence throughout the world, because everybody's being affected by this, and this business of decoupling is just not something that's going to happen. The whole world's going to suffer in varying degrees, and it already is. I mean, the economies in Europe are deteriorating very quickly. I mean, I know that recent IFO surveys in Germany show business confidence higher for 3 months in a row, and they see an abatement of the downside in export orders and things like this. But, you know, when you kick a dead cat, it doesn't go too far. And these are dead cat bounces. These are euphoric in nature and usually caused by a very latent psychopolitical propaganda. And that's what we're seeing the response to it. One of the things I go back to was 3 weeks ago at the Bilderberg meeting in Greece. The top discussion was about this thing's getting out of hand. I mean, let's haul this thing in and make it work. and let's go for world government at another time. The problem is, in June of 2002, they made the decision to go ahead and take interest rates down and sell homes to anybody who can make a mark on the line. And when they did that, there was no going back. They cannot resuscitate the system. We are going to have hyperinflation caused by monetary policy, which is the Fed. And the only way that can be changed is a purging of the system, a nominal devaluation of the dollar, and a default on debt.